What is up? What is up, Fight Hype family? What's up, boxing fans around the world? It is your man, Sean Zittel from the illustrious, perfectly kept, cutting-edge, well-maintained, high-tech, elaborate, illustrious studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada for another Fight Hype Live. It's been some weeks since Fight Hype Live. I think the last time I hung out with you guys was during Fury and Ngannou, calling that round by round. And I think I got so dejected that night by what is going on in boxing that I realized that boxing is fell on hard times, daddy. Boxing is in a bad place, baby. Real dark, real terrible, real awful, dark, dingy, evil place right now, daddy. Hard times is in American boxing, baby. American Dream, Dusty Rhodes here to talk about how hard times is in American boxing, baby. But what's going on? We got one vote already for Please Stop. I Can't Stop, baby. American Dream, Sean Zittel at Dusty Rhodes, baby. Because hard times, daddy, is when the number one network in American boxing does 4 or 5 big pay-per-views, but they're out of business anyway, baby. And the other one, the worldwide leader, the supposed worldwide leader, ESPN, baby, they going to Saudi Arabia, getting the heavyweight champion of the world put on his ass by a man who never boxed before, baby, in Francis Ngannou. That's hard time, daddy. That's hard times in boxing, baby. Hard times is when Terence Crawford gets stripped of his IBF belt in 3 months, daddy. Even though Errol Spence had the belt for 5 years, didn't have to fight his mandatories, baby. But Terence Crawford gets stripped like he's not a man. And then the hard part, daddy, is that Jerron Boots Ennis hasn't done anything at all to where you gotta bang down the door. You gotta demand to stop, baby, from the undisputed welterweight king. But no. I will stop. I will stop after 4 votes. But Dusty Rhodes, he ain't playing. So the state of boxing in America, baby. The American dream is dead in boxing, baby. It's moved to Saudi Arabia with the oil money. But so here we go. Since we last talked, Tyson Fury got dropped by Francis Ngannou, and whether you thought he won the fight or not, he got dropped, and the hardest punches throughout the fight were landed by Francis Ngannou, who was never hurt. Tyson Fury was hurt and dropped. So that was a horrible look. That was the worst look for the heavyweight title since the other Tyson, Mike Tyson, bit Evander Holyfield's ear. And since Tyson bit Holyfield's ear, the heavyweight championship of the world hasn't held the same weight in the United States since then. The American public wasn't interested in Lennox Lewis. Wasn't interested in Vladimir Klitschko, baby, the Klitschko brothers. And so, you know, they got a little bit of interest from Fury because he had 3 great fights with a great puncher from America and Deontay Wilder, and their 3rd fight was a classic. But now whatever momentum that belt carried in the United States has lost any luster it was starting to build by what happened in the Francis Ngannou fight. So what happened here? Hold on, baby. My telephone going crazy. But so then, since what happened to Fury, Showtime was already announced on their way out. ESPN, who can't produce the kind of pay-per-view caliber shows Showtime did, is taking some of their biggest fights to Saudi Arabia. And trying to forget a few other things here, but Terence Crawford got stripped, and what sucks is now Terence Crawford is saying a lot of the same things to Jerron Ennis that Errol Spence and his team said to him. Problem is, though, because we're in today's era of boxing, hard times, daddy, because we're in today's era of boxing, Jerron Ennis hasn't had the opportunities and the activity required to where he could go Mr. T Clubber Lang mode on Terence Crawford. Crawford, on the other hand, he was already undisputed at 140. He was on the top pound for pound, so he had earned the right to say Errol Spence was ducking him. So it's hard times because the best fight at welterweight is Terence Crawford and Jerron Ennis, but Jerron Ennis hasn't been put in the kind of situation to where he could just knock down the door, bang on the door, demand that kind of fight. He hasn't gotten there yet. So the best fight at welterweight is up in smoke. Crawford's going to have to do a rematch with Spence, which is going to be it's going to be not competitive. It's going to be a lot because Errol Spence, Terence Crawford is still all wrong for him with his counterpunching, but because rematch obligations happen in boxing now all the time, I mean, they've always been there, but they happen all the time now. We're going to have to see a rematch of a fight that wasn't competitive. And the fight that would be competitive doesn't bring enough money to the table with Jerron Ennis because in boxing today, You fight twice a year and often against not the opposition you want to see. So then in the middle of all that happening, Shakur Stevenson has to fight in a less than half filled T-Mobile Arena on a Thursday with an F1 event that just totally flopped in Las Vegas. Everybody hated it. Bob Arum is passing the buck to ESPN saying, hey, my hands are tied. ESPN gives us the money, and this is what they wanted. Pretty much knowing it's a shitty idea, but he's got to stand by it. So Shakur goes in there and has, up there with Robert Easter and Rancis Barthélemy, up there with Chris Bird and Davario Williamson, up there with Seth Mitchell and Jonathan Banks' rematch. Has, one of the worst fights, you can recall in boxing history. Very dull fight, wins the fight, and that happens to him right before his contract is up, which is whether Top Rank meant to do it on purpose or not. They just plummeted his stock value before he has to re-up. So if you were a casual boxing fan or a casual sports fan and you were looking at, man, boxing's a joke. I mean, that's their heavyweight champion. That's their king, their gypsy king, and he got dropped by an MMA guy with 0 professional fights. And then what happens since then? Crawford gets stripped on some political BS, but he doesn't. He's playing Errol Spence to Jaron Ennis's Terence Crawford. He doesn't want to fight him because of all the money reasons, and that just doesn't happen. We allow guys to get a pass in boxing once they get to a certain level of stature, and that shit just doesn't happen in other sports. Tom Brady at 45 years old still had to play Patrick Mahomes, still had to play the top young rookies, Josh Allen, whoever. He didn't get to go, well, I'm Tom Brady. I've won 6-7 Super Bowls. Those guys got to get their name up. They got to accomplish things to play me. I'm just going to play Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. I'm just going to face the other old guys who've made a lot of money. Only in boxing do we play this game of he's earned a pass, So yeah, as you guys could probably tell, it's been a little rough on me in the sport. Even getting the interviews you guys want. It's like pulling teeth with the publicists throughout, but not all of them, but they, they're listening. They know who they are. And that's not, we're out here flying. I was in San Francisco for Haney and Prograis. I was in Houston for Ryan Garcia. I was in LA for Benavidez and Andrade. And, it gets tough to do these things. Sometimes it's like loving a woman who doesn't love herself when you work with boxing and you love boxing and you're trying to cover boxing. So actually, I was in Miami yesterday, getting my Miami Dolphins Las Vegas Raiders on, covering that game. Just covering the Raiders, covering the Dolphins. That's what I've been doing. Been covering the Raiders a lot lately because boxing's made it tough. The fighters don't always want to talk. They have this adversarial relationship with me sometimes. They think I'm the bad guy. No matter how many interviews I do and how many views I produce, doing this for a decade, publicists don't want to get me this fighter or that fighter, so it gets tough. I got to take my ass to football sometimes to clear my head, but I'm happy to be back here with all the fans. Actually, it turns out most of you wanted to hit Dusty Rhodes, baby. I had to go to Miami. Had to go down to Miami, baby. Go see Tyreek Hill, the cheetah. The cheetah so fast. He was so fast with the ball, baby. He was amazing. Jalen Waddle with the Waddle penguin dance. It was beautiful, baby. Las Vegas Raiders tough. Robert Spillane playing with a broken hand, baby. That's hard times. That's hard times for Robert Spillane and Max Crosby. New coach Antonio Pierce. So, Luminous Nose says we're in the transition stage, though. Things will get better. Yeah, and just to touch on, let me shout out people in the chat. Kevin says, man, your recent boxing history. Salute. Thank you. Shine says the GOAT, my boy Sean. Thank you. What's up, GDDD? What's going on, brother? Saudi love the heavyweight. Saudi still think it's 1995, baby, with Razor Ruddock and Tommy Morrison. They think it's still 1995. The heavyweight division's where it's at, baby. When people haven't cared about heavyweight division since Lennox Lewis, they didn't even like Lennox Lewis, baby. They thought he was tea and crumpets, baby. They like Mike Tyson. So, yeah, hey, they are. Boxing is... The one people that were making big money in America are out of business now. Showtime Boxing. And the people that are left outside of them haven't really been able to move the needle, I'm sure, the way they really would want to. So they're all opening their butt cheeks out now for Saudis overseas because they're not even that interested in turning a profit. That's secondary, almost tertiary. They want to sports wash. So all these people who can't make it in the United States turning a profit in boxing, it's not all their fault. It has become a niche sport. Mainstream outlets won't really cover it. And they're relegated to having to go overseas and get this blood money, this oil money that isn't really concerned about turning a profit, because the bigger issue is the sports washing thing. So, and again, just the flex, your boy has had some lucrative offers from some startup companies that may or may not be coming. And your boy turned it down because I'm the American dream like Death It Rolls, baby. If I'm going to support genocide, baby. If I'm going to support a corrupt government, it's going to be my own in the United States of America, baby. American dream thong to tell. That's what it's going to be, baby. So, to get through these hard times, baby, in boxing, you either got to laugh through it or cry through it. And this is my attempt at laughing through it. So that's how we're doing it. Heavyweights runs boxing only in America. Hold on, let me see this. Crypto Zozo. Only in America do they care about booger weights so much. I don't know the booger weight. Do you mean bridger weight, Crypto Zorro? I don't think people care about bridger weights either. And I'll correct you. If booger weights was a demeaning way to say the other weight classes like middleweight and lightweight, I'll let you in on that secret too. America doesn't care about those divisions either. All but about 1 million to 500,000 of us, no one cares about boxing anymore in America. I have to say the hard truth. It's a little cathartic for me to say this. I was like you, chat. I was like you. Put me in the Lyft driver. Oh, boxing? You don't do UFC? Fuck no, I don't do UFC. I don't do MMA. I love boxing. I love boxing more than half my life. Been working in it for over a decade. I love boxing. And then they would start with their dumb shit. Well, Floyd was boring. And then you got to explain to them, no, Floyd wasn't really boring at all. He was a great boxer. And they didn't really like walking into those right hands all night long. So at a certain point in the fight, they stopped walking in. And then at that moment, Floyd got to coast and take the check. And it's boxing and blah, 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 blah. And actually, boxing's like soccer. It's one of the biggest international sports. You know, a lot of people love UFC here, but boxing's more worldwide. And all these rationalizations, as people outside of boxing have been telling us for decades, it's dying, it's dying, it's dying. And I wouldn't say all that. I wouldn't say it's dying, but these last couple months, between Showtime going out of business with their kind of desperate flurry of super fights, Ryan versus Tank, super fight, but wasn't for a title. Benavidez versus Plant, super fight, happened too late. They could have done it for a unification, didn't do it when back then. Still a good fight, but a non-title fight. Crawford Spence, over-marinated. Spence looks bad by fight night, gets dominated. Leonard Hearns becomes Roy Jones versus James Toney. A one-sided ass-whooping between what was supposed to be a summit meeting for number one pound for pound. Great, all-time great performance by Crawford, though. Canelo Charlo, nobody asked for it. Charlo runs a track meet for 12 rounds, fights to make it to the final bell, succeeds in doing so. And meanwhile, Benavidez is fighting Andrade because Canelo still doesn't want to give him the opportunity. So that's speaking for the company that did the biggest things in America this year. Take it over to DAZN, and they're more concerned with misfits boxing than anything else. Jake Paul is one of the most active, lucrative stars in American boxing. That's the state of boxing right now, baby. It's hard time, baby. It's hard time, baby. So that's where we're at, chat. That's where we're at. Are you the guy from Dude, Where's My Car? No, I'm not Ashton Kutcher. I would like to trade in our bank accounts, but not Ashton Kutcher. Not the heartthrob from the 2000s. That is usually meant to be a diss. So Mean M says, Shakur is a trash fighter. He plays it too safe. Well, Shakur is definitely not a trash fighter. Still like Shakur. Still think he's excellent. Even though he ripped into us as media. I don't know if he specifically really meant me, but he did, because he said all of y'all, so that does mean he meant me. Said boxing media, and this is a microcosm of what we deal with as boxing media. It's a increasingly irrelevant niche sport in the United States, and your Kevin Iolis, your Dan Raphaels, your guys that were the stalwarts of American boxing media for a very long time are hardly even there anymore. Either by choice or because their outlets don't cover the sport the way they once did because of what I'm saying. It's shrinking into irrelevancy and to niche status. And so you get a group of reporters, a lot of them drove from LA, some of them came from the East Coast. These are the last of us that still give a shit, that still love boxing, that are still trying to get the fans the content they want, get the answers from the fighters people want to hear. And instead of taking Shakur, instead of taking his frustrations out on his promoter that's got him fighting on a Thursday, his manager, Jay Prince, who probably takes a lot of money out of his pocket, and between him and Arum, didn't get him Frank Martin, aren't going to get him Haney or Tank anytime soon. Instead of him taking it out on his team, which haven't publicized him to be the kind of star he believes his talent should dictate, he takes it out on the only people he can, the media. And tells us we're the worst media in the world, which I disagree with on behalf of my colleagues. Boxing media, as a whole, myself included, we're not as professional and as decorated as the NFL media. I can say that now because I cover the NFL. It's the NFL, the NBA media, but we're more passionate and more gritty and jump through more hoops to get what we got to get to actually cover the sport of boxing. So, Shakur did that, taking the frustrations out on the people he can, and then he goes on to have, one of the dullest fights you could recall. But even all that said, I'm not here to bash Shakur. He's still an excellent fighter. I do think he's got good performances coming his way. A lot of you shout me out, chat, if you remember. A lot of you guys don't remember. I've always said Shakur is excellent. But I always wondered if people rushed to anoint him over Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis a little bit. I was always on here saying those are 50-50 fights. I didn't like how the media and fans were rushing to anoint Shakur, to pencil him in over Devin and Tank. This wasn't like Crawford and Spence, where to the mainstream public, it's a 50-50 fight, but to the real boxing insiders, everyone knew Crawford was going to win, basically, right? If you really knew your stuff, if you really knew how to break down tape, you knew Crawford was going to win that fight. That's not the case here, and people were starting to treat Shakur Stevenson that way. Like, if you really know boxing, you know he's going to expose Tank. You know he'll beat Devin Haney. And I've always maintained, no, those are true 50-50 type fights that actually do need to play out. I mean, all fights need to actually play out for us to know what's going to happen. But this isn't... I didn't like how Shakur was just getting penciled in over the field. I didn't think he showed us all of that. And part of me with Shakur, and we were just talking about Spence and Crawford, part of me with Shakur wondered, and I feel a little bad saying it, playing Monday morning quarterback, but part of me wondered with Shakur, is he top ranks better version of Errol Spence? And I say better version of Errol Spence because they were both Olympians, but Shakur medaled. He got the silver medal. They're both southpaws who are super fundamentally sound coming from the Olympic system, but Shakur has better defense, and Shakur will move his upper body. He doesn't throw as many punches as Errol Spence. He doesn't punch as hard pound for pound as Errol Spence. But I'll take a great defense and better hand speed over more thudding punching power and work rate. I think those are greater attributes. So I think Shakur is a little bit better than Errol Spence. But like Errol Spence, was this Olympian who, before he won his first title, people they crowned him and they anointed him and they penciled him in. I did too. And we've all been right. If you penciled him in as a future elite fighter, you are correct. He is an elite fighter. There's no doubting that. He's a 3-division champion now. But to just pencil him in against the other top talents of his generation, I thought was a little bit overboard. And so here we are now. And I always said Devin Haney was bigger than him and threw more punches than him. And you saw that. And Devin Haney, thus far, has handled power better. I said on these lives plenty of times, the Jeremiah Nakatia fight for Shakur gave me some pause. Because he was very timid in that fight once he felt the power and the length of Nakatia. And what became even more of a concern is what Murataya did with Nakatia, taking him out in 3 rounds. Styles make fights, but still, the fact that Murataya, who's just now transitioning to contender status, was able to take him out in 3, when Shakur, who's supposed to be entering his prime as a generational talent, as one of the faces of boxing, as a top 5 to 10 pound for pound, went 12 and was unimpressive with him. Now, Tim Bradley was fair to point out, he's had 4 great performances since then. Valdez, Herring, Yoshino, and another fighter I can't recall right now. But Conceição. Robson Conceição. 4 great performances since then. But with the exception of Valdez, who he later admitted almost made him, shit on himself when he went back to the corner and talked about how he was hurt, in his own words, with the body shot. With the exception of Valdez, those guys aren't punchers. Now he faces a puncher again in Edwin De Los Santos, and I was right there in the front row ringside. Soon as De Los Santos touched him in the first round with a body shot, Stevenson didn't want to stay in the pocket like he did with Yoshino. When he was with Yoshino and he felt the power and it didn't threaten him, and he didn't have the kind of hand speed and athleticism of De Los Santos, didn't have the kind of length of a Jeremiah Nakatia, Shakur showed you all he can do when he's comfortable in there. He could fight beautifully in the pocket. He could go to the body, shoot uppercuts, get his James Toney on, shoulder roll in the pocket and beat that ass. But when he feels punchers, his instinct is to step out of the pocket, is to step out of range. And now he's getting so much little offense done. And I thought the judges scored that fight correctly. That was not, okay, it's boring, but he pitched a shutout. No, De Los Santos touched him to the body in some of those rounds in the first half in particular. And I think the judges' scorecards were accurate. 7-5, 8-4 Shakur. And I think a lot of defenders would point to Floyd Mayweather. Well, Floyd had a boring fight with Carlos Baldomir, had a boring fight with Robert Guerrero, had a really boring fight in the rematch with Marcos Maidana. But even in those boring fights, Floyd's CompuBox numbers aren't approaching where Shakur and De Los Santos were. And he's landing that lead right hand over and over, that pull lead right hand over and over again, to where you get 24 head-snapping shots from the right hand from Floyd throughout the fight. I say 24, might only come twice around, right? But times 2 by 12, and you got 24 right hands that knock the guy's head up, and that's what you get out of a dull Floyd fight. It's still some clean, hard power punches with the straight right hand, with the left hook, something. So, don't bring Floyd into this when it comes to it's about hit and don't get hit. And I know Shakur in the post fight said he understands that he takes the criticism, but I don't believe him. I think deep down he resents all the criticism, and he can't wait to just rub everyone's face in it when he returns to form and has the kind of performances we're used to. And that's not really taking the criticism. That's just being angry and resentful at it. And then, that's what great athletes do. They hold it in, they resent it, and then they make everyone eat their words when they perform great again. So, and that's probably what Shakur is going to do at the end of the day. But I saw Gervonta Davis in that same ring against Ryan Garcia in this past April. Same arena, in that ring. And Tank would have beaten the Shakur that I saw fight De Los Santos, I believe. Because Shakur would have felt the power and would have become timid like he did with Nakatia and De Los Santos. And now you're fighting a slow pace, and that favors Tank because he likes that slow pace. He only needs to set you up 1 or 2 or 3 times throughout the fight to knock you out. He doesn't need to get off and fighting at a higher rate. It could work against you because you're giving him a lot of counter opportunities and whatnot. But fighting at that slow a pace, I don't think that'd get it done against Tank. And then with Devin lets his hands go a lot more. I've always told you guys that. He's bigger with longer arms and lets his hands go. And I've always told you guys, the more, and I'll end that poll because the American Dream is over, baby. It's over. I hope you guys enjoyed it though, baby. But the higher the weight Bill and Devin delay that fight to is the better for them. And yeah, I think at 140, Devin's chances go up from fighting him at 135, where he's sucking down to 35 to fight a smaller man. And at 47, I think that really benefits Devin if he could ever get Shakur up there at 47. But now they're not even thinking of fighting Shakur because Shakur tanked his market value. And now Devin and Tank could just go, why would I fight him? He's boring and doesn't sell tickets. He's double whammy. And yeah, so that was a rough night for Shakur. But I mean, he's still an excellent fighter. Still has great defense and hand speed and precision. He's gotta go back to the lab and figure out what it is that produces these kinds of performances against punchers. Do that for himself to become the complete fighter I know he wants to be. He wants to be the best fighter in the world. So I do think he'll work on some things. But yeah, it was just it was fitting. Hot off the heels of the Tyson Fury debacle and Showtime going out of business and just American boxing in general indicting itself by needing to go over to Saudi Arabia to make some money because they can't make the money they really should or could be making in America. So it was fitting that I was in this setup of a fight that was doomed to fail from the beginning, putting it on a Thursday, putting it in the T-Mobile when Shakur's not ready to draw like that. Shakur should be fighting on Saturday in New Jersey or at least in New York, where he can sell 10,000 plus tickets and not compete with Thursday night football, Bengals and Ravens, and draw a better number than he did. So, he kind of wasn't put in the best position, but he can't pass the buck on everyone else. He was in that ring and fought the fight that he fought. So I still think he has a very bright future. But those are some of my thoughts on Stevenson. He definitely has a bright future. Everybody knows that. But those are my thoughts on the situation, from how his stock and portfolio took a hit before having to re-up with Top Rank, to the Errol Spence being the kind of Top Rank Errol Spence, that comparison I made, to how people just automatically penciled him in over Devin and Tank, like it's Spence and Crawford. Like, if you really know your boxing, Shakur's definitely going to win. I don't think the tape shows us that. I think the tape shows us those are very 50-50 type fights. So, yeah. So let's see. He got hit 30 times, bro. Defense wins championships. Yeah, I mean, hey, he won. No one's saying he didn't win. And he's a 3-division champion. So, yeah, but Floyd Mayweather had offense. Muhammad Ali had offense. Roy Jones had offense. Pernell Whitaker had a punishing jab and a great body attack. So being a complete fighter, a great fighter, isn't just having a great defense. And if you're not taking any chances, then you don't deserve as much credit for having a great defense. It takes more to have a great defense while actually engaging in the pocket and getting your offense off. Getting your offense off means you're taking chances in the exchanges and still swimming without getting wet, like Bernard Hopkins used to do. So, that's great if you're fighting a great defensive performance, but if your offense really starts to suffer, then that means you're not having a complete game, because that's the other thing to people who love to bring up the hit and don't get hit. Yeah, it's called hit and don't get hit, not don't get hit and hit, right? It says hit and don't get hit, not don't get hit and get hit and hit. There's a difference there. And Shakur was playing don't get hit and hit, not hit and don't get hit. It's a difference. So, yeah. Core said clickbait ass title. Core, welcome to FightHype.com. Nice to have you. So yeah, let's see here. Hey, Sean, besides the main event, what fight are you interested in watching this weekend? I'm intrigued by Jamal Charlo and Jose Benavidez, even though it's kind of a bad fight. You're asking one guy who hasn't won in years in Jose Benavidez, who got dominated by an inactive, blown up Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is not even a 154-pounder, hardly fights anymore, and he dominated Jose Benavidez, who's now not just going to move up to 60, but really super middleweight, beyond the 160-pound limit, and fight Jamal, who's still hard times, daddy, hard times, baby. It's hard times in boxing when Jamal Charlo cannot defend the WBC title for 2.5 years, baby, and not get stripped, baby. It's hard times. So Jamal Charlo hasn't fought in over 2.5 years, and the WBC has let him get away with everything. And then he's going to fight a blown-up welterweight who hasn't won a fight in years, that got dominated by another blown-up welterweight who fights once every couple years, in Danny Garcia, and this is our co-main event. And there's a chance that if Charlo wins like he's supposed to, he has to fight Benavidez because Canelo still doesn't feel like it, So that's boxing. That is boxing right now. Subriel Matias should be good. Carmel Moulton on the undercard. It sucks that Boots Ennis, Cody Crowley got scrapped. That was supposed to happen. Cody Crowley was getting lined up to fight Boots Ennis, and then all of a sudden started talking about retirement on Instagram. I can't blame him because I got love for Cody, but just keeping it boxing, Cody. We know that was going to be very ugly with Boots Ennis. Conditioning and being tough ain't enough for an uber talent like Ennis. So, but I'm looking forward to the card, Benavidez and Andrade. We're going to touch on Benavidez and Andrade in a minute. Matt Borgensen, thank you for the super chat. Matt Borgensen said, unpopular opinion, but I think everyone's jumping on the hate too quickly on the performance of Shakur. I'm still giving him another chance. I agree. That's why I'm not hating on the kid. I still like Shakur, oldest of 7 or 8 brothers from Newark. And I think at his core, I know he's had some trouble, like on the beach he had a couple years ago. I know he lets that Newark out and talks his shit sometimes, but I think he's a good kid at his heart. And I respect him being the oldest of 7 or 8 brothers and taking that responsibility and making something great of himself in life. And still having the humility to listen to older people like Terence and Andre and Floyd. And then being such a boxing purist, loving it so much that Terence Crawford took advice from him on starting the Spence fight southpaw and using the jab right away. So, I definitely got love for Shakur, and sometimes it's not fun to have to deliver the truth. It's like I would love to tell fighters, why'd you say that? Why'd you criticize me? Because it's my job. Why'd you punch that man in the face? When fighters try, or professional athletes, I got a family. Why are you talking? Well, when you line up to tackle that man at middle linebacker, or when Bud Crawford, Shakur, when you see that man across the ring from you and you go to punch him in the face and it might remove him from his senses, in that moment, you're not worried about if he has a family. You're not worried about his feelings or his prerogative. You have a job to do. So in that moment, when I have a job to do and to say Shakur, that fight was boring, that was one of the worst fights I've seen in recent memory, that's just me doing my job. I gotta call it like I see it. But I'm with you. I don't want to join on any hate bandwagon for Shakur. And actually, part of me felt bad for Shakur Stevenson. I always have some human empathy for the winner and the loser in these big fights. But Shakur, I felt bad for him because Terence Crawford, I got Terence Crawford on the way out briefly. Andre Ward didn't want to talk, but he starts the night off in the dressing room by taking a picture with Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, and Terence Crawford. Former pound-for-pound number ones, the current number one pound-for-pound, and the future number one pound-for-pound is the context to the picture, right? Then he walks out with Andre and Terence beside him. But when the final bell rings, by the time he got to his dressing room, maybe Andre was there, but I know Terence wasn't, and I know Floyd wasn't. Floyd had left before the verdict was announced. Terence had a flight to catch, as you'll see in the interview I had with him right after. Well, not interview, but the walk and talk I had with him right after. And then Andre may or may not have seen him. So by the end of the night, when Shakur gets to the post-fight, he's saying, I want to apologize to Terence, Floyd, and Andre. My heart went out to him right there because that young man may not have gotten the closure that night of actually seeing them. All 3 of them may have been gone by the time he got out of the ring into the back room. So the night began, that's the ups and downs of life. The night began with him, with the media push as being the next number one pound for pound, the best defensive fighter since Floyd. Floyd himself is there. Andre and Terence walk him out, but by the end of the night, the arena was a quarter filled, and the people that were still there who didn't leave halfway through the fight, they're all booing. And the 3 guys that were there with him at the beginning of the night are nowhere to be found by the end of the night. So I kind of felt bad for Shakur in that moment. Still a 26-year-old young man, but he'll be fine. He'll be fine. But I just thought it was poetic that he had that kind of performance when boxing is going through it right now. It was just like he was a part of this momentum of boxing bottoming out a little bit right now, it feels like. So we'll see. But I think he'll be fine. What do you think De Los Santos versus... I got a super chat from the Body Tape Don said, what do you think De Los Santos versus Lomachenko looks like? Lomachenko's hard to call fights for these days because he's in his mid-30s and he's hot and cold. You don't know what you're going to get from him. in the last 3 years, I've seen Lomachenko flat, like he was against Tio, like he was, more so Jermaine Ortiz, he was really flat. He was gun-shy against Tio in the first half because Tio's counterpunching athleticism and power made him gun-shy. But also, he was on some bullshit too a little bit. He admitted it. He was cocky. He was overconfident. He became arrogant. In his own words, he said that. And then Tio, again, just had the right style for him. He's a counterpuncher who's athletic and punches hard and can take advantage of Lomachenko's. He had the athleticism to keep up with Loma's pivoting and footwork, and then the counterpunching to make Loma think twice of coming in. But the last 3 years, I've seen hot Loma, Nakatani, Masahiro Nakatani, and Devin Haney. Vintage, peak Loma. And then I've seen so-so Loma that fought Richard Comey. And then the Loma that fought Richard Comey and Tio. And then I've seen flat Loma against Jermaine Ortiz, where it looked like he's getting old and he's just not the same guy. So a lot of it depends on Loma. I think if Loma would have been in the kind of form he was for Haney in May this past Thursday, he would have beaten Shakur, based on what I saw from Shakur that night against De Los Santos. But that's on Lomachenko. He could have fought Shakur. He should have fought Shakur. Top Rank should have done that. That's the fight we should have been seeing on a Saturday with Shakur and Lomachenko, with Joe Tessitore and ESPN and Top Rank billing it as the real lightweight championship. We know most people felt Devin Haney beat Vasyl Lomachenko, high-tech Loma, the former pound-for-pound king. In most people's eyes, Tim beat Devin Haney this past May, and now they're fighting for the vacant WBC lightweight title as Haney has moved up and has not taken a rematch and didn't want to fight Shakur Stevenson for the mandatory challenge. So Tim, in all intents and purposes tonight on ESPN, we're watching the real lightweight championship of the world, Shakur Stevenson versus Lomachenko. That's what should have went down, but apparently, Lomachenko war-torn back in Ukraine, coming off a great high-speed taxing chess match with Haney. So he takes the rest of the year off, and now he's going to fight George Kambosos, and which is another reason I feel bad for Shakur. Not only is he being frozen out by the big names that are currently not with ESPN. Devin's on DAZN, Tank is with PBC, but he's even being frozen out of the biggest name he could get with Top Rank, and that's Lomachenko. Top Rank's more concerned about getting the most out of their 3-fight deal with George Kambosos than they are what would appear to be the main objective, building up Shakur Stevenson. So, yeah, it's a tough moment right now for Shakur. I like the Raymond Murataya fight. I think Murataya has a style that will bring the best out of Shakur. Or if Murataya is a young star himself, maybe he upsets Shakur, and now you got a young Mexican-American, good hard-punching lightweight that Top Rank can make a star. Problem is, Murataya's not really ready for Shakur. He hasn't had any title fights. He hasn't fought for a title yet. Shakur's a 3-division champ, but I do like the Murataya fight as we look for, what can Shakur do to get busy while Loma is going to fight Kambosos and now Devin and Tank are going to pretend he doesn't exist. What can he do? I like the Murataya fight, but Murataya's not really ready for that assignment. So, let me see. Lester Walnuts, thank you, brother, said, thanks, schooling these casuals on what boxing is. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, Lester Walnuts. And appreciate everyone coming in the chat and hanging out with me, man. I've been, been away for a little bit. Matt Borgenson, thank you so much for the super chat again. Says, Floyd definitely left because he didn't like the performance. I love Floyd as a fighter, but I hate him as a human being. Sorry, bro. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, feel however you want about the man, I just try to keep it in perspective a little bit. And like I said, Floyd had some boring fights, man. Maidana rematch, Robert Guerrero in the second half got very dull. Carlos Baldomir, after he hurt the right... First half of Baldomir was fun. He was whooping his ass pretty good. And then the second half he coasted. Plenty. But the point being, even when he was coasting, he was landing hard, head-snapping right hands. So, yeah. Navarrete didn't really show up at his best on the co-main event. He kind of went through the motions and... Navarrete is like the anti-Shakur Stevenson. His chin's up in the air. It's so funny. Shakur has such a better defense than Navarrete, right? But he doesn't trust it like Navarrete does. Navarrete could have his chin up in the air. You could be missing him by just an inch, nailing him on the chest, nailing him on the sides here. But he trusts his instincts and his range, and he trusts himself. And by the way, Navarrete shoulder rolls. It's not a great shoulder roll, but he will put the chin behind, drop the lead hand, and exchange, and kind of just trust that I'm tall at 122 to 130, and just trust that it's not going to get there. And if it does, I got the chin to take it. And so Navarrete, I'll see him. God, he's so awkward. You'll start exchanging with him because he looks like a piñata that's there to be whacked. His chin's in the air. He's awkward. He doesn't have a muscle on his body. But then once you start going for that chin and throwing bombs, now you're doing what he wants you to do. And now he's lanky and gangly and awkward, and you're missing by just the missing on his chest, missing right here and here, and he's coming back with the awkward angle off the miss. Boom, 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 and he's landing bombs. And now he's got you fighting this fight because you feel like you should be landing with that chin out there. But he's landing the harder shots, and he's got you exchanging with him. My point being, he's the anti-Shakur because he doesn't tuck his chin as good as Shakur. He doesn't have the step back, perfect vision defensively that Shakur has, but he trusts it so much more than Shakur. Maybe that has to do with the chin. Maybe it's because he trusts his chin and Shakur does not. I don't know. I couldn't exactly tell you what it is, but it shows you 90% of this game is mental, as Teddy Atlas would say, which I always thought 90% was a high figure. Pretty sure it's at least 50% physical. It's not your mind punching him in the face, but yeah, that shows you it's a mental thing. Or it could be a physical thing. Navarrete physically takes punches better and thus is less concerned about one landing on him than Shakur is. But that's really up for debate because Shakur hardly gets hit, so we really don't know what kind of chin he has, and he doesn't seem eager to find it out. No, nor should you ever be eager to find it out, but you should be able to trust it in certain spots, you would hope, in that ring. So yeah, it's interesting. It was really interesting watching him and Navarrete. Shakur is so much more sound defensively, but he doesn't trust his defense in the pocket and in the exchanges, at least against punchers. He does against guys like Herring and guys like Conceição and Yoshino. So yeah, interesting. But even then, Navarrete, if Navarrete shows up like he did for Conceição, he'll probably lose to O'Shaquie Foster. That's a great fight at 130. I love that fight because Foster is a defensive specialist who shows he can punch, and Navarrete is a puncher who shows in the Valdez fight he could be rangy. He could be a little more tricky than you think he is. So I love that fight. I originally favored Navarrete, but Navarrete can't show up like he did for Conceição. If he does that, he probably gets beat. But if he shows up like he did for Valdez on his P's and Q's sharp at 100% up for the task, I think Navarrete could beat Foster. So, got another. I've got another super chat from Matt Borgeson again. Thank you, brother. You're too kind. Thank you for the 10. Says also one more thing. I think that this performance put a big notice on the flaw on Shakur's defense. He only jumps back in one direction. An experienced fighter like Tank will stick to him. Well, you say Tank will stick to him, but Tank's never shown a stick to him like quality. He does pause, I guess, as the kids would say, but he doesn't do that. Tank is a boxer puncher, sometimes counter puncher. Fights at a very slow pace. I haven't ever seen Tank go and get a guy. When you have athleticism, rarely do the guys with great athleticism go and get a guy because you're rangy. You could be out at long range and you have the foot and hand speed to get off when you want, better than the other guy. So why sell out? Why sell out? Why cut the distance when at distance you're the faster, rangier guy? And Tank's always been the faster, rangier guy at distance. That's why even when he fought a just as fast guy who was taller than him and Ryan Garcia, he still beat him on the outside. by the time the knockdown landed, he was walking him into shots rather than having to go and get him. So, Matt, when you say an experienced fighter like Tank will stick to him, I haven't seen that quality in Tank yet, which takes me back to my point. Tank, the big three at 35 to 40, the big four, including Teofimo, those are real 50-50 fights, man. Those are all real 50-50 fights. That's why it's corny when we pick favorites too much out of the young quartet of Shakur, Devin, Tank, and Teo. Our job is not to pencil them in hypothetical wins and losses. Our job is to get them to fucking fight each other so we find out who's the best. It's not... We can't go over, Shakur will wash them, Devin will wash them, Tank will knock them out, Teo's got a better resume than all of them. That shit is all corny. They need to fight each other. And it's already taking too long. The four kings, the real four kings in the 80s, by this stage of their careers, had fought each other quite a bit already. Leonard and Hearns fought at 22, 23, 25 years old. And at that point, at Leonard and Hearns, with the ages I just mentioned, Duran and Leonard had already fought twice, so they got it. Yeah. But to make my original point of hard time, Daddy, in boxing, hard times is when you got four great young fighters who don't want to fight each other, baby. Hard times in the American dream in boxing, baby, is when Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez, as teenagers, as young men, talked about each other, Daddy. Said he's not better than me. He's not as good a man, a good a fighter as I am, baby. He can't beat me 1, 2, 3 in the middle of that ring, Daddy. He can't do it at 135 or 140. But now they act like they don't know each other, baby. Now you ask Devin Haney about Teofimo Lopez. He don't know nothing. You ask Teofimo Lopez about Devin Haney taking out garbage truck, baby. He working in the garbage. That's hard time, baby. No, but seriously, Devin and Teo, I love both of them, but they're both irritating me because I interviewed you guys as teenagers and as young 20-somethings barking at each other, barking about whose era it's going to be. Teofimo, I'll knock Devin out. Devin, he can't fuck with me. I'll box his ears off, right? And why won't you fight me at 35? Why don't you fight me at 35? Blah, 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 blah. Now, at 140 pounds, Teo's a free agent. Devin only has a one-fight deal that Hearn can match, but a one-fight deal with Eddie Hearn. Devin's one fight away from being the number 2 dog with the WBC, the green glamour belt. Teo got the lineal belt and the WBO belt, beat the man who beat the man, Josh Taylor. So now we're three or 4 weeks from Devin beating Prograis and them being number 1 and number 2, and a fight for all the marbles to see who's the man at 140. No weight issues. Neither guy sucking down to 35. Both guys at 140, comfortable, strong, in their physical primes. The fight can happen. And what are Devin and Teo acting like now? They're kind of acting like that meme you see on social media when the two dogs are barking at each other, and then the gate gets pulled back, and now they don't know each other. Now they don't got nothing to say. That's part of what's wrong with boxing, baby. That's why we in hard time, Daddy. And they're all culpable. They're all responsible. Terence Crawford don't want to fight around Ennis. He sounded like Errol Spence when Errol Spence didn't want to fight Terence Crawford, baby. So yeah. But that's some of my thoughts there. Prince Albert Bell, Toledo, Ohio. Shout out to Albert Bell, tall, undefeated lightweight who's been putting in work for many years, top rank, and deserves a real shot to fight for a title eventually. Let's see. Every last one of your favorite boxers who came through 130 in the last 10 years has ducked Prince Albert Bell. I don't have 10 favorite boxers that came through 130. Mills Lane said I missed the super chat. Where is it, Mills Lane? I got you. Hold up. Hold on. Where's Mills Lane? There it is. Mills Lane, he's the best referee in America, baby. He told Mike Tyson, cut the bullshit, baby. Mike Tyson, listen. He knew. Mike Tyson fought 10 police officers that night, Daddy, but he didn't fight Mills Lane. So Mills Lane says, if you know boxing, you know Shakur vs. Devin is up for another potential snooze fest. Maybe not, though. I don't think so. Sometimes two counterpunchers, oddly enough, results in a really good fight. Because one guy... Now, it could be a terrible fight. It could, two counterpunchers feinting and countering all night. But sometimes it's not, because one guy takes the initiative and understands if I'm going to win this fight, I gotta take the initiative. And I think that guy would be Devin. Because if you watch their... I've talked about this so many times on these streams. If you watch their sparring session, still out there. I guess they sparred a couple of times. But the one that's still out there, if you go and watch it, Shakur's getting the better of Devin up the center when they're boxing. When it's a real boxing match. And it's just on the outside. And Shakur is a little more accurate and a little sharper up the middle with the 1-2s. Once Devin changed his game plan up and began to go forward and impose his size and his length on Shakur more and went to the body more, drove him to the ropes and started downstairs instead of headhunting. Once Devin started doing that, it began to swing his direction. So I don't think it's a snooze fest because I think Devin can't let it be a snooze fest because if he does, he'll get outpointed by Shakur, and I think Devin will know that. He's got good instincts in the ring. And whether he beats Shakur or not, I think Devin will make a fight out of it. Look at how Devin fought Lomachenko. He took the fight to him, threw hard right hands to the body, and made it a great fight. When it could have just been not a high-speed chess match, but just a chess match. But Devin made that Lomachenko fight exciting. He took the fight to Lomachenko, and I think against a smaller southpaw again in Shakur, he would do the same thing because he'd have to. Because if he did what De Los Santos did, and allowed it to become that kind of fight, Shakur would probably be a step ahead. But thank you, Mills Lane. Thank you, Mills Lane. You were the greatest referee ever. Let's see here. Adrian Broner suffers hand injury and pulls out a December return. Just in case. See? And you guys think I was being negative. But just when we thought things couldn't get any worse Adrian Broner has to pull out of his fight. Now what are we going to do? Now the 140 division is in shambles. Anyways, shout out to AB. Thank you again, Matt Borgeson. Again, brother, you are the MVP today. Says, thank you for the super chat. Says, I think Devin Haney versus Teofimo needs to happen ASAP because I expect Regis to get dominated by Devin. He's too slick. And then Ryan Garcia. Well, Ryan's headed the Gervonta Davis rematch route. I think. Could totally be wrong. I've been wrong. But I think the Tank fight makes the most money. And I think Ryan likes PBC. And then the Rolly fight could be fought for the WBA belt as O'Hara Davies just has to sit there and wait and get effed by the politics of boxing. So you keep that WBA belt on Rolly long enough, then the WBA will look the other way because they would love 3% of a Ryan Garcia Rolly Romero fight. That's good what do you think the WBA wants 3% of? O'Hara Davies against whoever's rated number 2 or Ryan Garcia against Rolly Romero? So yeah, but I'm with you, man. Devin and Tio, there's no reason they shouldn't fight. I know maybe Devin and Bill aren't happy with Bob Arum right now. I'm pretty sure they're not. But it's business, not personal. And then, Tio, same thing. He's not happy. Well, okay, so fine. You're both free agents. I don't know. Fight each other with Eddie Hearn then. I don't know, but fight each other. Fight each other. The build-up's there. Is it built up to absolute over-marinated perfection like Mayweather Pacquiao and Spence Crawford where you're going to squeeze every dollar possible out of these two names even if the product suffers a little bit? No, we're not there yet. There is more juice you could squeeze out of Haney and Tio. But it's pretty goddamn ready and peppered up. It's got some peppercorn on it. It's pretty goddamn edible right now. And again, it would be for all the marbles at 140. And it'd be a big fight. It would be a legitimate pay-per-view. So I'm with you. I want to see Devin and Tio. I don't blame either one. I blame both of them right now. Because neither one of them has that energy for the other. You talk to Tio, you talk to Devin, and it's just another fight. Oh, yeah, that'd be a good fight. Just another fight. And it's like, why not? Why isn't it the fight? Haven't you guys been talking back and forth for years, and now it could be on the line for everything? So, but I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully it happens. Boring or not, Shakur beat a puncher with one hand. Just saying. Allegedly beat him with one hand. There's no confirmation on any alleged injuries, but no one's debating that he didn't beat a puncher with one hand. They're just holding him to a high standard because it's a compliment the high standard Shakur is being held to. And speaking of the high standards, and Crawford, I feel like Crawford's not being held to the standard Floyd or Canelo or Manny or Roy was. When Roy was number one pound for pound, and there was this guy, Darius, I can never pronounce his last name. You hardcores know it. Darius, last name being M, undefeated fighter from Europe. And even though Roy Jones beat James Toney, beat Bernard Hopkins, beat Virgil Hill, became undisputed at 175, became number one pound for pound, he was held to the utmost standards. And people would go, well, what about the WBO titleist at light heavyweight? What about Darius overseas, right? Floyd Mayweather, beat Pacquiao, beat Canelo, beat this guy, that guy, this guy. But people would fairly point out, Oscar had the belt, but he wasn't really peak Oscar. Manny had been knocked out by Marquez. Canelo was a little young. Chico Corrales was weight drained. You really lost to Castillo, and on and on and on and on, right? That really high standard. Canelo, you're ducking Benavidez. Everyone's saying you're ducking Benavidez, right? A couple years back, some people felt you're ducking Andrade or this guy or that guy. But now, Andre Ward, when he was number one pound for pound, you got that stoppage because of low blows, and you got a gift in the first Kovalev fight. And Chad Dawson was a light heavyweight. Why'd you suck him down to 68? But Terence Crawford, you guys love him. He could do no wrong. And again, for the millionth time, first ballot Hall of Famer. He won every fight he's ever fought at welterweight has been a title fight, and he's won it by knockout. No one's went the distance with him since Barack Obama was president. He's great, but I feel like if it was Floyd fucking Mayweather or Canelo who wasn't fighting their mandatory, forget about his resume, I know he hasn't done shit, but when you know as a real boxing head, that's the best fight in the division, and Terence is simply saying, no, I'm good, and he's really good, he's going to have a really bright future, and none of you have nothing for him, that means you guys aren't holding Terence to quite the same high standards you did the pound for pound kings before him. That's just my opinion. And again, he doesn't have to fight Jaron Ennis, but just a little bit of pushback from the boxing public. Even me, as I'm guilty. I swallowed my tongue. I didn't go in like I do with Canelo and Benavidez, in part because I know Benavidez, now a 3-time world champion, the youngest super middleweight champ ever, who has headlined a pay-per-view. He's got the backup now to where you can knock on Canelo's door and say, you should fight this guy. He's done some things. Maybe not a whole lot, but he's done some things. And it's a big money fight. Ennis isn't a big money fight, and he hasn't done some things. So I can't go at Bud like I would with Canelo. But even that being said, I apologize to you guys because I'm there in the scrum with Terence, and Terence is out in front of everything. He's answering all the questions about Boots before we can even really ask him. He's great. I know how it feels. Very media savvy by Crawford. I know how it feels to not get your shot. I know, but he'll get there. He'll do good. He's very good. But I'm not fighting him. And I didn't grill him on it, and no one grilled him on it. He got away with it. So that's just something I noticed. Let me get a couple super chats in real quick. Couple super chats. Hard time, baby. Matt Borgeson again, thank you for the super chat. Matt Borgeson's a baller. He's got money to spend. He says, like Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor, I was in shock that he was the underdog. People just slept on him when he was clearly a better fighter. I agree. I think I picked Teo to win that fight too, Matt. And styles make fights. Taylor showed us in the Jack Catterall fight, yeah, he's tall, but he doesn't fight tall. He unless it's Jose Ramirez coming right to him, face forward all day. But Josh Taylor was a tall guy who doesn't fight tall. He likes to get to mid to close range and fight. He's not a lengthy boxer. That's what gave Teo problems, keeping him on the outside, boxing him. If you're an aggressive southpaw like Josh Taylor, we know what Teo can do with aggressive southpaws. Ask Lomachenko. So yeah, I knew Teo would win that fight too, just like you did, Matt. The Haney fight, I favor Haney because he struggles with length and boxers on the outside with good lateral movement, and Devin has those attributes. But if Teo made some adjustments, and he's not an old dog yet learning new tricks, he's still got the youth on his side to make some enhancements and adjustments. If he adjusts somehow, he holds his hands on the front foot and cuts distance, he could get Devin into an exchange and knock him out. But based on what I've seen from them right now, I think Devin would win a decision. Chichi Torres. What's up, Chichi Torres? Shout out to Chichi and Boma. Chichi says, What's up, big dog? What's up? What's up? Just tuning in. Love the American dream. Death the road, baby. Loves the American dream. Do you think Shakur plays it too safe with fighters with heavy and fast hands? Yes, I do. I think he does. Not to the point that it's cost him a fight, though. He's still won these fights, but it's cost. Yeah, he has to. He's got to watch his tape, do whatever he does. Travel through the progressions in his mind to find out what it is that's making him not perform to his potential when he feels the power, when he feels a guy with heavy hands. Especially if he does have a good chin, which is a question mark. To his credit, he doesn't get hit, so we don't really know what his chin's like. But if he's like Floyd Mayweather and James Toney has a good chin, trust it sometimes. Stay in the pocket. Don't give him any free shots. But if something gets through, know that you can take it, and he's going to get hit with 2 or 3 back. He's going to pay a price. He's going to get a receipt for that. But it's so much easier where I'm sitting from, and I understand that's always the crux of being adversarial with a long-haired fuck like me after you get in that boxing ring professionally. Is who am I to critique sitting on my ass, in the hardest sport in the world? So. But he's got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out not to shut me up, not to shut anybody up. He's got to figure it out because I know in his heart he wants to reach his potential. He wants to be the best fighter he could be. And to do that, he's got to be honest about these 2 performances against Nakatia and De Los Santos and figure it out and grow and figure out how do I get more comfortable in the pocket against punchers. And, we'll see if he ever does that. Let's see. But thank you very much. 12-3 says, if you know boxing, the jab comes faster than the lead. De Los Santos was looking for the counter. So Shakur only had one option, and that was to throw the jab, his left hand, and ride his bike. Yeah, but 12, he didn't even use... See, I've talked about this on my streams before. I've said this era of young talent, they don't love their jab. I think, from what I've observed, they think the jab is basic. And because we've grown up in the Floyd Mayweather era, the Canelo Alvarez era of pull counters, these guys with these great pull counters, Floyd and Canelo being 2 of the best at it, and all the young guys look up to Floyd and Canelo. And Floyd and Canelo, they got great pull counter right hands over the top of guys, especially Floyd. So a lot of these young guys, I think they love the pull counter. And the pull counter counters the jab. And I think they think of the jab as like it don't work like that no more. Like you guys are out there on the couch saying, go to the body, use the jab, saying the most basic shit. And there's a reason why you don't see us do these in these championship fights anymore. And that's because the jab gets countered. It gets timed. And that's why George Foreman used to say, believe in the jab. And so, like Devin Haney when he fought Gamboa, anytime he threw the jab, he landed it, but he wouldn't stay with it because he wanted to set up a right hand. He wanted to walk. He wanted to do a pull uppercut or a roll. Like Jamal Charlo when he knocked out J-Rock, he wanted to roll and come back with an uppercut. He wanted to set up a right hand, a check left hook. He wanted to hook off the jab. But when the other guy's keeping it defensive like Gamboa was that night, or like De Los Santos was with Shakur, then just jab his head off. It's the equivalent in football is if you want to throw the ball down the field. You want to push the ball down the field, but the defense is playing 2 safeties deep. They're playing prevent defense. They're not giving you that. We're not letting you beat us with the deep ball. So when a guy like De Los Santos does what you're describing, 12, dink and dunk him. Dink and dunk him to death, like Tom Brady would do. They're not gonna give me the deep ball. 6 yards in the flat, 7-yard slant, 6 yards in the flat, catch and run. All that. So if all De Los Santos was giving Shakur was the jab, Shakur's got a great jab. Jab his fucking head off. Jab him. Set CompuBox records for southpaw jabs. Like Muhammad Ali would just throw 30, 40 jabs at a time. Now I know. In our era where guys, like you said, De Los Santos was looking for the counter, so it's easier said than done. But when I'm watching my cozy seat, that is what I see sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, you're not taking what the defense is giving you. They're sitting on the counter, just touching them. Just keep touching them. Touch. touch. Just touch him with the jab, double it up. Just for this purpose of landing the jab. It doesn't have to set up a right hand. It doesn't have to set up a hook. It doesn't have to set up a jab, catch, counter. Just jab. Just land the jab. That's all he's giving you. So much easier where I'm sitting. But that is how I view it sometimes when I watch some of this era of young guys, and I think that's why you don't see a lot of dominant jabs. Dimitri Bivol against Canelo. Just to highlight my point, talking about how guys like Canelo and Floyd have taken away the jab because they got that pull counter, right? So Bivol knew, that's what you want me to do. You want me to commit to the right hand or the left hook to the power shot because like you said, 12, the jab you get off quick, and those other shots, the backhand, the hook, they take longer to get off, and you're more susceptible to the counter. So what did Bivol do? He didn't commit to nothing hardly all night. Just jab, stay in position for the inevitable counter from Canelo, and just take what the defense was giving him. Canelo was giving him the jab. Canelo will eat some of those as he cuts distance. So he just took it. Until the defense offered up something else. So yeah. Shakur is trash, bro. No. Definitely not trash. Excellent fighter. Just had an extremely dull fight. It is what it is. Terence abused Errol with the jab. He did, ST3. That is the image of Spence Crawford more than any knockdown or the brutal images of Spence and the beating he took that fight. The image burned into my head of Spence Crawford for the rest of my life will be how Crawford came out with the cross-armed southpaw jab in round 1. It was a thing of beauty. It was old school. Bam, bam. Face guard, bam, bam, with that up jab. And it was beautiful. And Crawford took the jab until Spence, take the jab until the other guy starts committing, until the other guy starts getting desperate because you're pelting his head back with jabs. And now he knows rounds are getting away from him. Fight's getting away from him. So now he starts trying power shots like Errol Spence did. And then that's when you could counter him with the hook. Walk him into the power. But don't force it. If the defense isn't giving it to you, don't force that throw down the field. Don't force that power shot. Dink and dunk until the defense starts to play up. Then you go down the field. And that's what I would liken the jab for with some of these young guys. Jab his head off. Then when he gets tired of eating the jab and starts taking chances, then you could run him into the big stuff, Again, much easier said than done where I am in the beautiful, elaborate, well-kept, illustrious, high-tech FightHype headquarters. Definitely easier where I'm sitting. But that's what I see. That's how I see it, baby. That's how I see it when I watch the boxing match with the boxers. But yeah. So chat, let's round out the show with some Benavidez Andrade. I think my wife just got here. Sammy? Okay. But let's round out with a little Benavidez Andrade right now. So I still got Benavidez, right? But I sense a little bit different attitude from David heading in this fight. Maybe it's just him with me. Maga Daga says, I can tell you've never been in the ring before. I have, though. I have. Doesn't really matter. Custy Amato didn't box professionally, and he probably trained one of your favorite fighters ever, Mike Tyson, but I have. Just if you must know. You probably have never boxed in an amateur USA boxing sanctioned fight before, but I have. Anyways. So back to Benavidez and Andrade. Yeah, Benavidez has been a little more on edge heading into this fight. Not as quite as friendly as I'm used to him being, which is fine. But I don't know if I love him buying into the Mexican monster temperament. I think a more methodical, intelligent approach is better. Even with him being an aggressive offense-first fighter, he has a very full offensive skill set, and I don't think he made the most of it against Caleb Plant. I think he reached for power shots against Caleb Plant and didn't fight a smart fight, even though he maybe still should have stopped him down the stretch without Kenny Bayless allowing so much excessive clinching. But with Andrade, he's looked really good to me in training. I've seen videos of him training here on FightHype, and you know what? Fuck it. Maybe I should pull one up. But Andrade looked very good to me, and he looks like he's trying to pull a Kobe Bryant. And what do I mean by that? Once Kobe became number 24 and couldn't just dunk on everybody anymore, like in the young Afro number 8 days, couldn't just be faster and get to the rim and dunk it on your head. When his legs started to leave him a little bit, he made up for it by adjusting his style. He'll pump fake 3 or 4 times, get you in the air, draw the foul, fade away, knock down the shot. When he couldn't jump over you, he finished it off with finesse. And so I see from Andrade, I may not be able to find the clip, but what I see from Andrade, let me find it, damn it. Let me find it. What I see from Andrade is he is accommodating his legs not being what they were by fighting better at mid to close range. Let's see this real quick, chat. Hold up. Let me pull this up. All right. Put this audio on. All right, let's get to the real crux of it right here. So those are little half steps to the left, half steps to the right. Like, he's not really up on his bike. He's picking his hands up more. I know he's fighting orthodox right there, and he's a southpaw. But I just see him throwing more combinations in mid to close range and making little adjustments in the pocket because he knows my legs aren't going to work for all 12, I think. He knows if he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to pull it out in the pocket sometimes, which is heavily, figures to favor Benavidez because he's just a bigger, younger guy with much better punching power and just bigger than this guy who's really a blown-up middleweight. But I actually liked what I've seen from Andrade here. He looks very sharp, keeping his hands up on the inside well, and throwing good combinations and good compact punches. He looks in very good shape. And actually, I'm not even sure this is that's an older one. Hold on, that's an older video. I'm looking for his media workout. Hold on. That he had about 3 weeks ago. There it is. There it is, chat. There it is. I was tripping. I didn't really love that video. This one was good. See? Okay, see how he's tightening it up? Here's the video. See how he's tightening it up in the pocket? His hands are picked up more than they usually are. The lead hand's not low, like he's fighting on the outside and being rangy. He's picking his hands up, and he just looks more compact in the pocket, and he'll need that for Benavidez. And yeah, at 35 years old, up in his third weight class, I don't think his legs are going to be able to move for all 12. You saw how that worked for Caleb Plant. It worked until it didn't. It worked until his legs couldn't do that as well. And Benavidez adjusted to Plant and actually started countering him jumping in with combinations and began to time Plant. But I like that what I see from Andrade here, picking his hands up, staying in the pocket, shifting his weight a little bit, and throwing good compact combinations. So, I don't count Boo Boo out of this fight. But ultimately, I still think Benavidez is going to win this fight because Andrade doesn't have the legs to keep it on the outside for all 12. I think midway, before we even get to the 6th round, he'll have to start fighting in the pocket. And I think he'll hold his own when he starts doing that. But once we get to round 7, 8, 9, 10, I expect Benavidez to be in control of that fight. And for him to hurt Andrade multiple times in this fight, I kind of am expecting this in its own way to look like the Plant fight, where Andrade gets off to a good start, does some beautiful work in the first half of the fight, but takes a lot of punishment in the second half of the fight. And I'm hoping that Benavidez has a more clinical, methodical approach in that since this Andrade fight doesn't have the bad blood and the animosity the Plant fight had, that he uses his jab, that he uses all of his offensive skill set and doesn't reach for power shots early. And if Benavidez does that, he could stop Andrade and really have the performance he needs and is looking for to get Canelo in the ring. If he doesn't make the most of his boxing IQ and just is fights like Antonio Margarito, like an Antonio Margarito with faster hands and better braids, then I think he's going to go the distance, and this fight's going to look like the Plant fight, where he looks very ordinary in the first half and then imposes his size and youth in the second half. But imposing his size and the youth in the second half won't blow people away. He's got to display the fantastic offensive arsenal and skill set that he really has, I believe. So we'll see what we get in that fight. But it's a tough fight to cover this week, because this is how they're doing us, guys. Tomorrow the press conference is in LA, and then the workout is Wednesday in Vegas. They expect us to be in 2 different cities on 2 different days for some reason during the fight week, but that's about it. I know a lot of people are thinking Boo Boo upsets Benavidez. If he does, I'll eat my crow and give my props to Providence, Rhode Island's finest. But still think that Benavidez will win this fight. But all right, chat, that's about all I got for today. Thank you, everybody. I hope some of you, I look like at least half of you enjoyed the Dusty Rhodes stuff, but it was good to be back. Going to take the rest of the day off. We got a big fight week ahead of us this week. So keep it locked in on FightHype for Benavidez, Andrade all throughout the week. And much love to everyone. Thanks for joining today. And I'll be rocking consistent again after that little bit of break. So much love, everyone, and take care. See you later. Peace.